What's up, everybody? My name is Erin, and welcome to the Mad Maker Studio, and welcome back to Lamplight City. I am thoroughly invested in this game, and particularly Case 2. So we are currently at the Spectre Society. This is Miss Angela Maxwell. We were ended the last time reading through all these books. I'm going to read through all of them, just as a personal preference. The giant squid or Archie, is one of many terrors of the deep. It has never been seen by humans, and all evidence of its existence has been found washed ashore or in the belly of the squid's natural enemy, the sperm whale. Researchers have theorized that the giant squid can grow as large as 175 feet or 53 meters. Beaks and tentacles have been found in the stomachs of whales, and some bear the scars and marks of suction cups. The giant carnivore has a tornado-shaped body. It moves quickly through the ocean by using a jet of water forced out of its body by a siphon. The beast was a beak-like mouth, powerful enough to snap a steel cable in two. Dang. The tentacles extend far beyond the length of the body and feature several suckers, each surrounded by several tooth-like projections. These suckers are able to latch on to other creatures with a terrible death grip, so that even creatures like the mighty whale are brought down with a relative case. A first-hand account of an encounter with what is thought to be a giant squid is provided by Benjamin Roberts, first mate aboard the Althea. It was close to dusk. We were just off the coast of Madagascar when the lookout directed us to the source of a terrible bellowing from the port bow. Breaching from the depths of the Leviathan, called the sperm whale, clearly in distress, is a little bit hard to read. Upon closer inspection, we noticed the poor beast was being smothered by gargantuan arms, the likes of which I had never seen. A panic erupted among the crew, and several began shouting about the sea beasts and the krakens. Meanwhile, the whale continued its futile struggle. I could not help but feel pity for the creature, as its haunting cries echoed through the air. The captain ordered an immediate change of course, and we were soon on our way, leaving the whale to its hard fate. Oh, I know about that gris-gris. The religious practices commonly known as voodoo originated in Africa, but have seen a migration in recent years. First moving to the West Indies, it spread after a revolt in Santo Domingo caused a wave of escaped and freed slaves to migrate to Vespuccia. For years, the religion was practiced in secret, but emerged as a more widely accepted faith after the abolition of slavery in 1840. The largest concentration of practitioners of voodoo is the city of New Britannia, particularly at the borough of Gascogne. Though it is at its root an African religion, voodoo has evolved in New Britannia, heavily influenced by Catholicism. New Britannia voodoo has adopted several Catholic saints and turned into a hybrid religion unique to the city. One key factor which sets voodoo apart is the use of charms or amulets of various functions and purposes, commonly known as gris-gris. Gris-gris also originated in Africa, used mainly as a means to ward off evil spirits and bad luck. However, they have taken a darker connotation in the voodoo practices of New Britannia and can also be used to bring misfortune and suffering. Common types of gris-gris. The basic gris-gris is always contained in a leather pouch. The ingredients vary depending on the desired effects. For instance, a gris-gris designed to bring a gambler luck would contain chamois, red flannel, a shark's tooth, and dove's blood. A gris-gris for sending away an enemy contains items like gunpowder or red pepper. Usually the person's name is written on paper and included in the bag. To bring someone bad luck in business, the gris-gris would contain chicken bones and graveyard dust. Interesting. Mediums. Communication with the spirit realm is most often achieved via the help of a medium. A fairly common practice employed to communicate with the dead is a seance, in which the medium tries to establish contact with the dead in the presence of a small to medium-sized group of people. The general opinion is that a greater amount of energy provided by living beings will establish a stronger connection to the spirit world. A medium is someone who can speak to the dead. Two types exist, mental and physical. The mental medium tunes into the spirit world and relays messages by sensing or seeing spirits. The physical medium is able to produce manifestations of spirits, apparition, knocks, bell rings, etc., by using ectoplasm created by their bodies and the bodies of seance attendees. No one is exactly sure how the ability of mediumship is attained. Some claim to have it from birth, while others attribute it to near-death or other traumatic experiences. That sounds a lot like our boy Miles. Illustration of a medium channeling a spirit. I love these little illustrations. Whether a medium can see spirits or only hear them depends greatly on their level of skill as well as their natural attunement to the spirit realm. Some mediums claim that an increase of this attunement is possible through practice and study, while others insist that it cannot be taught and is something that is either possessed or not. Okay, what lies beyond the veil? To those who would claim that what lies beyond the veil is only madness, I ask you, is it madness to gaze upon the face of the others? Those who can provide us with the cosmic knowledge of the ones who came before us, where we are headed, and what purpose we serve. Look beyond, remove the blinders of logic and reason, and embrace the unknown. For here is where the truth ultimately lies, not in some rigid textbook. You must open your mind and attune your senses in order to perceive what is really there, for beyond the veil lies all. Recently, I was speaking to a dear friend who had lost her mother just a few months prior. She told me that in the days following her mother's passing, she sensed a shift in energy in her home, a benevolent energy. She became convinced that her mother's spirit was reaching out from beyond the veil. And why wouldn't she be? Death is not the end of our beings. We may shed our physical bodies, but our souls are eternal. While we have not yet mastered the ability to communicate with the deceased, we grow closer and closer each day. Our friends and loved ones who have passed beyond the veil and into the ether have as much of a desire to speak with us again as we do with them, and this is why spirit mediums are such valuable aids. Without them, we would be lost. Many are skeptical, and with good reason, but the mere fact that mediums exist should be proof enough that whatever higher power created us wanted to ensure that there were those among us who could bridge the gap between the living and the dead. The mysteries of spontaneous combustion. An illustration of two men finding a victim of spontaneous human combustion. Spontaneous human combustion is a highly controversial subject, but remains popular among scholars and aficionados of the occult and unexplained. The term refers to death from a fire originating without any apparent source of external ignition. The fire is believed to start within the body of the victim. The 1823 book Medical Jurisprudence states that commonalities in recorded cases of spontaneous human combustion include the following characteristics. The victims are chronic alcoholics. They are usually elderly females. The hands and feet usually fall off. The fire has caused very little damage to things around the body. A residue of greasy and fetid ashes is left behind. I'm thinking, Mrs. Davis, did you have a little something extra in your tea that night? Most physicians and investigators strongly believe that spontaneous human combustion is a product of alcoholism. Interesting. Secrets of the Tarot. The Magician. The central figure depicts someone with one hand pointed to the sky while the other hand points to the ground as if to say, as above, so below. This is a rather complicated phrase, but its summarization is that Earth reflects heaven, the outer world reflects within, the microcosm reflects the macrocosm, Earth reflects God. It can also be interpreted here that the Magician symbolizes the ability to act as a go-between between the worlds above and the contemporary human world. On his table, the Magician also wields all the suits of the tarot. This symbolizes the four elements being connected by this Magician. The four elements being earth, water, air, and fire. The infinity sign on his head indicates the infinite possibilities of creation with the will. The Magician is the representation of pure willpower. With the power of the elements and the suits, he takes the potential innate in the Fool and molds it into being with the power of desire. He is the connecting force between heaven and earth, for he understands the meaning behind the words, as above, so below. That mind and world are only reflections of one another. Remember that you are powerful, create your inner world, and the outer will follow. The Lovers. In the Lovers card, the man and the woman in the image are being protected and blessed by an angel above. The angel depicted here is Raphael, the angel of air, who is of the same element of the zodiac sign that governs this card, Gemini. Air is associated with mental activity and communication in particular, which is the foundation for healthy relationships. His blessing seems to give this card a sense of balance and harmony, the symbolization of union in a grand and cosmic sense between two opposing forces. The primary meaning within the Lovers is harmony, attractiveness, and perfection in a relationship. The trust and the unity that the Lovers have gives each of them confidence and strength, empowering the other. The bond that they have created is very strong, and it can indicate that the two are joined in marriage. and other close and intimate relationships. Another meaning behind the Lover's card is the concept of choice, a choice between things that are opposing and mutually exclusive. This could be a dilemma that you need to think about carefully and make the best decision for your situation. Oh, that makes me nervous. And finally, spirits and the ether. The ether, which is to say the outer void, is the primary channel through which spirits can travel and communicate with the living. This unseen dimension exists in conjunction with ours, but can only be accessed by people gifted with the sight or special communication tools. The most common tool for spirit communication is the aetherometer. When the spirits wish to communicate, their messages enter our dimension as vibrations, undetectable except by the aforementioned people and tools. The aetherometer reads these vibrations and translates them into sounds or words, which the medium can then interpret. Spirits expend a great amount of psychic energy when they communicate, which is why most of their messages must be received via this tool. If a spirit is able to harness a great deal of energy, however, it is possible for them to cross over as a physical manifestation or apparition. While this is slightly less common, there have been several documented cases of apparitions throughout history. With the emergence of modern ferrotype technology, it has been possible to capture images of these apparitions. Unfortunately, the long exposure times necessary to produce these images means it is difficult to capture spirit, as they move quickly and are often only visible for a few seconds at a time. However, as this technology develops, it will surely be possible to capture ferrotype images in a matter of seconds, thus greatly increasing their probability of capturing the image of a spirit. Unfortunately, spirit photography is easily faked, and many fraudulent examples have arisen. Due to this, it has become increasingly harder to prove the real instances of spirits captured. Once again, the lowering of exposure time will make it much more difficult to fake. It will be interesting to see where the leaps in technology will take us. Beautiful. And those are all the books, and it sounds like members are free to borrow books as long as you check with me first. So that's from Angela. So it sounds like we might be able to select a book to take with us to a different location. That could be cool.
The plaque says Leonora Pattinson, seer. She looks like someone I would not want to fool around with. That's probably the storage case for the spirit board. Must be for the more traditionalist members. I never much cared for all that mystic stuff. Why should your life be dictated by a bunch of cards?
Could I ask you about some things, Miss Maxwell?
Certainly, darling.
What can you tell me about the Spectre Society?
Where to begin? I formed this club 2 years ago, right after I moved to New Britannia. During our meetings, we discuss our experiences with paranormal phenomena and organize investigations.
What sort of investigations?
We look into places all around the city which have been reported as haunted. New Britannia is teeming with the spirits of those killed during the French and British takeovers of the city. Not only that, but there is a prevalence of mystic religious practices here in Gascon, brought over by immigrants from the Antilles.
Fascinating.
There are plenty of books on the subject over there in the bookcase, if you're interested in learning more.
What made you decide to start up this club?
I began communing with the spirits at a very early age. My twin sister, Rachel, died after falling into an icy pond when we were 8 years old.
I'm very sorry, Miss Maxwell.
Oh, I appreciate your sympathy, darling, but don't feel too bad. Rachel began speaking to me shortly after that. She has served as my spirit guide ever since.
Spirit guide? You mean you still speak with her?
Oh, yes. Every day. In fact, I was just speaking with her before you arrived. As I grew older, I realized there were others in the world who were also able to communicate with spirits, and those who had an interest in what lies beyond the ether. And so, once I moved to New Britannia, I decided to start up this club so we could gather and share our experiences.
Do you suppose she can hear what I'm saying? Hey, Angela, try a bit less eyeshadow, would you? You look like a purple raccoon. Nothing. Clearly a fraud. Ah, well.
I was wondering,
Yes?
when you communicate with the spirits, are you able to stop?
If I wish them to leave me, yes. I bid them farewell, and they usually depart back into the ether.
What about the more persistent ones?
You do remember I'm right here, don't you?
Well, just between you and me. Those spirits are best dealt with by having the other kind of spirits. Quiets them right down.
I prefer soporific myself.
Oh? You hear the voices of the spirits as well, Mr. Fordham. But of course, now the reason for your visit to the Spectre Society is obvious. Do you see? All our paths eventually become clear. I'm glad yours has brought you here.
Oh, wonderful. Now she started rhyming. Don't get any funny ideas about telling her about me. She may be a lunatic, but that's no reason to expose yourself as one too.
Do you know anything about the kidnapping of Charles Harris?
I'm afraid I haven't heard anything about any kidnappings, darling. If you wish, I can commune with the spirits and see if I can help locate your missing person.
That won't be necessary, Miss Maxwell, though I appreciate the offer. Can you tell me anything about her?
Ah, Linda, poor dear. Of all our members, she is the one I feel for the most.
Why is that?
She's had a tragic life, but I believe the Spectre Society has helped her greatly. Not only has she made a good friend in Henrietta, she's also dealt with her grief in a positive way. She has devoured my collection of books, educated herself on many subjects. I would say she's become an expert on clairvoyance and metempsychosis. It's always nice to know that the club can help those who have suffered.
Do you see her often?
Yes, she comes by about once or twice a week.
Aha!
What can you tell me about Linda and Henrietta's friendship?
It's so lovely to see them together at the meetings. They're practically inseparable. It's quite sweet. They often leave messages for each other in the guest book. When Linda found out that Henrietta was taking care of an infant, she even gave her a toy bear for the child. I remember Linda lighting up with excitement when she asked about him. She really loves children. It's such a terrible shame about... But please, let's discuss something more pleasant, shall we, darling?
Sure.
I'm sorry, what was it you said? Madam Psy, what?
Metempsychosis, darling. It's a philosophical term which comes from ancient Greece. It refers to the transmigration of the soul after death.
Is that anything like reincarnation?
Essentially, yes. There's a book on the subject over in the bookcase, which can tell you far more than I possibly could.
Yeah, I read all the books first because I figured it would be a situation where I would have more to ask about if I finished clicking on everything in the room before talking to her.
Do you know Linda Walker's address?
I'm afraid not, darling. Linda has always been somewhat private, and that's not something I consider to be crucial information.
Do you know any way I can find her?
You could always come back for our next meeting. It will be the first Thursday of next month.
By then, we'll have completely lost track of Charles. There has to be another way of finding Linda.
Let's end the conversation here.
Thank you for the information. It was very enlightening.
It was my pleasure, darling.
Because I want to come back, and if I prod about Linda's past when she said it was clearly unpleasant, then she might get angry and kick
I'll be
us out
going
of the
now.
Spectre Society.
May the spirits guide you to that which you seek.
Let's review our some of our casebook. So we still, I guess we need to go back in and ask about Linda Walker at the Spectre Society. Okay. Part of me was kind of hoping I would keep the information of the books that I read there.
Welcome back, Mr. Fordham.
Since it's on our to-do list.
Could I ask you about some things, Miss Maxwell?
Certainly, darling.
What's this tragic story about Linda you mentioned?
Oh, dear. I probably shouldn't say...
Okay, she's down.
Miss Maxwell, I'm going to be frank. I'm investigating a kidnapping, and Mrs. Walker is a person of interest. I need to know as much about her as possible to help me solve this case. Do I make myself clear?
Well, if it will help, Linda was married to a man named Thomas. Together, they had a son named Alexander. Thomas revealed himself to be a terribly cruel man. When he gave himself over to the drink, he would fly into rages and beat both Linda and the boy. One day, she came home to find both her son and husband dead.
My God, what happened?
The police ruled it a murder-suicide. Poisoning, apparently. Linda has been trying to make contact with Alexander's spirit for the past year or so, but has had no luck. It really is a terrible tragedy.
Thank you for the information. It was very enlightening.
It was my pleasure, darling.
Okay, so we crossed that off our to-do list, so we just need to find out who or what SS is, which I'm thinking is over here.
There's quite a few members in this group.
Sophia Shaw. I'm thinking that's who we need to go talk to, but okay. What if can I go back and talk to
I'll be
Mrs.
going now.
Davis?
May the spirits guide
She
you
and
to
Linda were
that which you
besties?
seek.
We can ask her about her tragic past, maybe.
Hello again, Mr. Fordham.
I have some questions for you, Mrs. Davis.
All right.
Excellent.
Mrs. Davis, have you ever had Linda visit you at the Harris Manor?
Oh, no, of course not.
Then would you care to explain your note to her in the Spectre Society guest book?
Please, Mr. Fordham, I didn't mean to lie to you. It's just that it gets so lonely by myself in the house at night. So every now and then, I invite Linda to come over for tea and
Oh,
some
maybe
company.
Linda slipped her a little
see.
something something.
And when was the last time this happened?
2 nights ago. Please don't tell Mr. and Mrs. Harris, Mr. Fordham. If they found out what I was doing, they'd have me dismissed without a reference.
I won't, but I'd very much like to speak with Mrs. Walker. Do you have any idea where I can find her?
All I know is that she works as a seamstress at a shop in Lyon, but I don't know the name. I'm sorry, I can't be of any more help than that.
Okay.
Thank you for your time, Mrs. Davis.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Maybe our wife knows.
I'll be going now, Mrs. Davis.
May the spirits guide your path.
Hey, Addie. Here I am.
It's always nice to see you walk through that door.
Addie?
What do you need, dear?
I'd forgotten how good you are at écarté. You absolutely destroyed me the other night.
As I recall, you used to hold your own pretty well.
We should have another match soon. That way I can hone my skills.
Yes, we should. As long as you can concentrate, I'm sure you'll get as good as you used to be.
You weren't kidding about business picking up. You're averaging what, about 3 appointments per day?
More like 5. I told you, debutante ball season's busy.
Doesn't it get tiresome?
Not really. You'd be surprised at the sort of gossip I hear from my clients. I don't know what it is, but they just open up to me and tell me all kinds of personal things. You sure you don't want me to give you a trim?
I'm fine for now, dear. Thank you. I can't believe the nerve of that narrow-minded old cow.
Who, Mrs. Delacroix? She's actually one of my nicest clients.
I don't know how you can tolerate her. If I were you, I'd strike her off my list.
If I did that for every one of my clients who thought the same as her, I'd be out of a job. That's just the way it is.
Maybe so, but it doesn't make it any less infuriating. Have you ever heard of a group called the Spectre Society?
I think I had a client once who mentioned it. There's some kind of spiritualist
Spill,
group,
girl.
right?
So it would seem.
I don't really know anything else about them, sorry.
How are things going with you?
I'm a bit worried about some rumors I've been hearing.
Oh?
They're saying it won't be long before automated hairdressing devices are available to the public. Once that happens, it's going to be tough for me to keep getting jobs.
Automated hairdressing devices? How would those even work? Do they read your mind?
Doubtful. More than likely they'll have some kind of settings or just give everyone the same type of hairstyle.
I wouldn't worry too much, Addie. You're the best hairdresser in town. I doubt people will place their trust in some contraption over you.
You underestimate my clientele, Miles. They're mostly all rich socialites whose hobbies are buying the most expensive and modern things just to outdo their peers. They'll be sending their servants to line up for days before the things are released.
Perhaps, but they'll come running back to you once the machines stop working. You'll see.
I certainly hope so.
I'll let you get back to your book.
All right. Maybe Upton knows something.
I'm heading out for now.
Give my regards to Constance.
Well, we haven't been back to the manor in a while.
Can we talk?
Go on, I'm listening.
How's work going?
Hectic as usual. Crime in this city seems to be getting worse and worse every day.
I suppose that's the price of progress.
God help us if they ever actually discover that ethericity stuff then. Things between you and Adelaide getting any better?
I'm really not sure. They haven't gotten worse, but things haven't been the same between us since Bill died.
Well, you need to figure things out, or everything is just going to explode in your face one of these days.
Thanks for the vote of confidence, Upton.
I'm merely speaking from experience. If I'd seen the warning signs of Harold sooner, it would have saved me quite the headache. At least your marriage seems like it's still worth saving.
Can we go over my current case?
Of course. What have you got?
I spoke with Henrietta Davis, the Harris family nanny.
A sensible place to start. What did she have to say?
She claims to have been unconscious when the kidnapping took place.
She must be an extremely heavy sleeper.
I don't believe so. The way she described it made it sound like she was drugged.
Interesting. Definitely worth looking into, I'd say.
Have you ever heard of the Spectre Society?
I think so. They're some sort of ghost hunting club, aren't they?
A spiritualist group, yes.
Don't tell me this case has taken a turn for the supernatural.
Not exactly. It's just come up as a potential lead.
You don't gotta worry, Miles. Me and Detective McLean are on the case with you.
I found this torn piece of fabric at the crime scene. It's got an emblem with some initials on it.
I recognize that emblem. It's from Solomon Stitching, a little tailor shop in Lyon. My ex-husband had several jackets from there.
Sorry to dredge up old memories, but do you remember where they're located?
I believe it's on the corner of Bonneville Street and Surratt Avenue.
Fantastic. You're helpful as always, Upton.
I knew she'd help us.
I found this button at the crime scene. The child's nanny identified it as the eye of his stuffed bear.
Did you find the bear at the scene?
No, the kidnapper must have taken it as well.
Interesting.
Either the kidnapper is very compassionate, or it's someone who knew the child. Are you familiar with the term metempsychosis?
No, what is it?
Apparently some mystics and philosophers maintain that it's a process whereby human and animal souls are transferred to new bodies upon death.
Fascinating. Some people have such queer ideas. What's that got to do with the kidnapping, though?
I'm not exactly sure yet.
Sometimes I'm jealous of all the odd things you detectives get to look into.
That's enough about the case for now.
Okay,
All right, bye.
That's it, I think.
then you'd better get back to it.
Good day to you, sir. Welcome to Solomon Stitching. I'm Jonah Solomon. Please let me know if I can help you with anything.
It's quite the selection, but I doubt the typical clientele of this place buys off the rack. That coat is so dull. I always prefer the ones with a bit more color. The design of that coat looks awfully familiar.
Yep.
My grandmother had one like that. I think it was meant to be relaxing, but it always felt like my time was running out. Now that it has, well, it actually is relaxing. Go figure. This guy has been in business forever. Isaac Samuels, the prime minister who freed the slaves. They say even his enemies wept on the day he died. I sure hope I get to meet him someday. Impressive collection of pattern books. I wish I'd known about this guy when I was alive. I'd have asked him to make me a suit for my funeral. Judging from the position and the lock, This is likely where Mr. Solomon keeps his money. That cloth will be a garment soon. A vest, by the looks of it. Or maybe I'm completely wrong, and it's a treasure map.
Mr. Solomon?
Yes, sir. How may I be of service? Oh, let me guess. You're looking to replace that old coat. It looks like it's got quite a few stories it could tell me.
You should listen to the man, Miles. He clearly knows what he's talking about.
Not today, I'm afraid. There's still a few more stories it has left to tell. Actually, I was wondering if I could ask you a few questions.
Questions? Very well, but if they aren't about tailoring, I don't know how much help I'll be.
This is a nice shop you have. I never even knew it existed.
Well, better late than never, I always say. Life has a funny way of always taking us where we need to go in the end.
True. Although I think it's easy to miss out on things from time to time.
Oh, of course. It's easy to overlook the details, but in the grand scheme of things, you'll end up where you need to be. And in this case, you ended up here. So, please, feel free to take a look around. Let me know if you find anything you like.
I found this piece of torn fabric with your emblem on it. Can you tell me anything about it?
Yes. Brown, wool, houndstooth. This is from one of the more popular jackets I sell.
And here I thought my ability to name ales within 5 seconds of tasting them was good. This fella has me beat.
Do you have any of them in stock currently?
Well, sure, I've got one on the display dummy over there.
Is there any way you can tell me who you've sold them to?
Oh, I don't think so. I've sold at least 20 in the past month. As I said, it's a very popular style.
Is there anything you can tell me about this button?
Looks like it's made of wood. Not very well crafted either. Definitely not from one of my products.
How did you get into this business, Mr. Solomon?
I was always good with a needle and thread. When I was a boy in Poland, I would help my mother with her sewing. Then, during the war with Russia, I fixed uniforms and stitched up wounds. Not long after that, I moved to Vespuccia, settled here in New Britannia. My first shop was in the Chum, but thankfully, I was very successful and was able to move to Lyon. I won't lie to you, this location is much, much nicer. It's refreshing to not have to step over drunken hobos when I open and close the shop.
Oh, but that's part of the charm of owning a business in the Chum.
Not much else to say beyond that. My business is my life.
You seem very dedicated to your craft.
That's right. You won't see any of that newfangled steam-powered nonsense in here. Everything is done by hand and with care. I use only the finest quality materials and stitch every thread myself. And that's the way it's gonna stay as long as I'm around. It's worked for 45 years. There's no reason to change as far as I'm concerned.
Hey, man, as long as you do what you love.
Do you by chance employ a seamstress named Linda Walker?
I do, yes.
Is she here?
No, she has the day off today, but she'll be in tomorrow.
Would it be possible to have her address?
Begging your pardon, but why should I give it to you?
Yeah, because good for him looking out for Linda, though. It's not cool to just be giving out people's addresses and personal information to strangers.
I'm a private investigator, and it's crucial to this case.
Well, as I said, she'll be here tomorrow. You can ask her then.
It really is a matter of some urgency.
I'm sure it can wait a day.
But
if it were really that urgent, I would think the police would be involved, not a private investigator. I'm not obligated to tell you anything, so please, let's move on before I lose my patience.
please, Mr. Solomon, it's extremely important that I get Mrs. Walker's address.
So you said, but why should I?
Okay, again, real life, this is not okay. In-game purposes, though, I need to progress the game.
I know I said I was a private investigator before, but there's a more delicate reason I want to speak with Mrs. Walker.
Oh?
Her son, Alexander, and mine were schoolmates. I just found a book he lent my son, and I wanted to return it. I've been trying to track her down for ages, and only just found out where she worked.
Oh, I see. It was a terrible tragedy what happened with her boy and her husband. I know how private Mrs. Walker is, but I'm sure she would appreciate you returning
No,
her
you could have
son's
just
book.
told me to leave
All
it
right.
here. She'll be
She
in here
lives
tomorrow.
at 403 St. Agnes
Dang
Street.
it.
Remember when you couldn't even bring yourself to trick people into thinking their shoelaces were untied? You've come a long way, Miles.
I'll be taking my leave of you now, Mr. Solomon.
Very good.
He was really looking out for Linda, like not giving out personal information to strangers. He'd be like, I told you, she'll be in tomorrow. Leave the book here. A mystery location, the Walker residence.
It says here that Linda Walker is in the upstairs apartment, and someone named Douglas Emafiel is under the stairs. This machine is quiet. It's already gone up considerably in my estimation.
You could learn a thing or two from it, Bill.
Some people would call that humming and hissing the sound of progress. I'd call it annoying. Nobody home. Now what?
What? Who are you? Are you from the Steamworks?
Afraid not, sir.
Damn. Oh well, what can I do for you?
Do you know Linda Walker?
Of course. She lives upstairs. Who's asking?
I'm Miles Fordham. I'm trying to find Linda so I can speak with her.
What's your business with her?
I'm afraid that's private.
Well, she's out right now. You'll have to come back another time if you want to visit her.
Have you got any idea when Mrs. Walker will be back?
Not for a few days. She told me she was going away for a bit. Ah, that reminds me. She asked me to water her plants while she was gone. Just need to remember where I put the spare key.
Why did you think I was from the Steamworks?
Because I contacted them a few days ago when my boiler broke, and nobody has come to repair it yet. I should have known better. Those fools always take their time, if they even bother showing up at all. Meanwhile, I'm stuck in here with nothing but cold water. If I catch pneumonia and die, you'll know who to blame. Sure, I'm her landlord. I look after the place when she's gone. Got a bit of a green thumb, that one, so she puts me in charge of watering her plants. The trip up is a bit of a pain, though. My hips aren't what they used to be. Right. Private detective.
Oh, come on.
I don't have to do anything you say. You're not really the law. So nice try. But I'm not betraying Mrs. Walker's trust so easily.
He says that now, but I'm willing to bet he'd do it if it benefited him in some way.
Sorry to bother you, sir. I'll just be on my way.
Where can we go from here? Yeah, I mean, he's a good neighbor. He's not trusting us. That's fine. I am very suspicious.
Miles, what are you doing? You don't know the first thing about steam engine repair.
It can't be that hard to work out.
If you're serious about getting it fixed, I'd suggest looking for someone who knows about this sort of thing first. But if you just want to charge in blindly, be my guest.
But the minigame...
These pipes are connected to the flue. They must heat up the water in this overgrown tea kettle.
Yeah, we should probably wear some gloves.
A fine fuel source.
Uh-oh. It's shaking.
I don't think you should leave this thing unattended before you've made any repairs.
It won't go any further in that direction.
Is this not supposed to happen or what?
The water's boiling now. I sure hope you know what you're doing, Miles.
I don't.
Now you've done it.
Whoa.
What the? My boiler! What have you done?
Could that have been avoided?
I do apologize.
You're one of those saboteurs, aren't you? One of those Redites.
No,
I'm calling the police, you no-good troublemaking
no.
bastard.
Now you've really done it, Miles. Best not to stick around here too long.
Where do I go? Could that have been avoided? Who would I have talked to that would have known about steam powers? Better give Upton a heads up. No, I doubt it.
Can we talk?
Go on, I'm listening.
Nope, okay.
That's it, I think.
Then you'd better get back to it.
I can't. I made someone very upset. Yeah, I can't go back. Oh, I did it again. I also... Just something about this area on the coast of places that I'm not welcome back at anymore. So mad at myself. Who was I gonna talk to?
You don't suppose...
Aha!
How about that?
It matches the piece of torn fabric perfectly.
So, this means...
It could mean many things. The only thing that's certain is that a piece of this jacket ended up on the floor of the nursery.
Seems like something worth asking Mr. Harris about.
I have some questions for you, Mr. Harris.
Yes, of course.
Mr. Harris, do you recall the torn piece of fabric I found in the nursery?
Yes, what about it?
As it turns out, one of the jackets in your wardrobe has a tear exactly the same size and shape as this one. Would you care to tell me how that happened?
That can't be.
I'm afraid it is, so explain it.
I have no explanation. The truth is, I haven't worn that jacket in weeks. I've no idea how it was torn.
Are you suggesting someone else took your jacket and wore it when the child was taken?
I don't know. Perhaps someone is trying to make it look as though I... But that's absurd. Why would I kidnap my own son?
Why indeed, Mr. Harris.
You really think he kidnapped his own son, Miles? Seems more likely he was set up. But he also doesn't strike me as a terribly good parent. Maybe it would serve him right to be blamed for this. We've done our part. The police can handle the search for the missing baby.
Those are all the questions I had for now.
All right.
Oh. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm very, very upset with myself that I just tinkered away when I shouldn't have on the steam boiler machine. I'm gonna end this episode here, and when we come back, I will have finagled my way back here to get to this point again, and hopefully not have the Walker residence ordered off so we can access it, because I feel like that's crucial. If we just go through and we can't investigate and Malcolm Harris is our only suspect, I'm gonna be so mad. All right. Well, that's gonna do it for this episode of Lamplight City. Thank you so much for joining me. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, I'll hope to see you next time. Bye!